Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hans Christian Christiansen. And we go actually immediately to Dr. Alenka. She's coming from Slovenia National Building and Civil Engineering Institute, and she's going to present the Cinderella, which is a project on urban construction and circular economy using some tools from REPAiR, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope we hear each other, just to check. Yes, thank you very much. So I would like to say it's really my pleasure to be here at this conference, to hear about the REPAiR project results, and I really wish REPAiR a good luck for beyond REPAiR. And it's also, I thank you very much for this opportunity to present what is happening in the Cinderella project, and also how we used part of the results from the REPAiR project inside the Cinderella. So so I would ask you for the next slide, please. This is just short. You already hear. I'm coming from the Slovenia National Building and Civil Engineering Institute. Next slide, please. So it is our main topic about the construction sector, and of course here we know that the construction sector is really consuming a lot of the raw materials. So it's about half of the all raw materials is entered in the construction sector. When I'm saying construction sector, it's not just building, but also the road construction and infrastructure, etc. And also 1/3 of the water. So making a construction sector a circular one, this really means that we are making the circular society. Next slide, please. So waste here is an excellent raw materials to be recycled and which can be used. A lot of, I would say, many types of waste can be used in the construction sector. So these are not just the waste which is produced inside the sector itself, so construction and demolition waste in the means of the excavated soil or the old brick or old concrete, but also there are excellent raw materials inside the waste in other sectors. So, for example, in the group of the incineration waste, so typical slags or ashes, or even in the municipal solid waste. So, for example, we were in Cinderella, we were looking for the two big flows inside the municipal solid waste, and one is the sewage sludge, which is end product of the wastewater treatment. And the other was, for example, also the material which comes from the municipal solid waste treatment. So the real remainings which usually cannot be used anywhere else. Next slide, please. So the Cinderella is focusing really on the urban business environment for the construction sector. So our main, let's say, start is the waste which we can find inside the urban and peri-urban areas, and how to use them for so-called secondary raw material-based products in the construction sector. We are 13 partners. So one of them is also TU Delft. And this enable also the cross link between the two projects, REPAiR and Cinderella. Next slide, please. So we have 8 work packages in the Cinderella. By now, we really finished the work package 3, which is monitoring of the waste, which can be appropriate for the secondary raw material-based construction products. But there are also ongoing activities. Now we are a little bit beyond the half of the project, in the sense of the large-scale demonstration, which was also mentioned before as a topic for the Next Horizon Europe course. So next slide, please. Just with this picture, I would like to remind you how the picture look before the China ceased import of the plastic. So this is really the global mass flow. Everything, most of our plastic waste from Europe, from America, from other parts of the world went to the China. So this is what happens if such one waste flow ceases. Suddenly, we had in Europe a lot of the municipal waste which we didn't know how to treat. So next slide, please. And this waste can be also this example can be one of the key drivers for development of the business cases, in the circular business cases for the construction inside individual regions or municipalities. So these are linked, like we know the butterfly, which on one part of the world can infect what is happening on the other part of the world. And now I am showing the different view. What is happening? This is a case from one of the cases of one of the 6 cases in Cinderella, when we made the mass flow analysis with support of the GDSC tool. So this is Maribor city with the neighboring cities, so it's kind of the Maribor region, and you can still then on this micro level we still have currently, based on our study, a lot of the flows which goes out of the city. So everything what happened inside the city and in other city centers goes mostly out of the cities, and mostly we have to know that these are collectors in other cities. So from this small picture we can see how linear economy works to the large picture which we saw before. Next slide, please. And inside this work package 3, which is really concluded, we also made assessment beside these mass flows and assessment with the GDSC tool. We made the assessment of different value chain and different waste, technical properties of waste which can be used, but also the general framework of the general study. What are the key drivers and which are barriers in currently to turn the linear construction sector into the circular one. One of the things which is very important is the current legislation. So I would ask you for the next slide, please. And generally, when we are talking about the secondary raw materials in the construction, we are dealing with a waste legislation, which is usually national one, based on the common European legislation, and we are talking about the construction legislation, which we have in the field of the construction products. We have the European common legislation. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. So in this construction product regulation, CPR, it's what came in 2011 new is this what you can read here. So the construction product regulation is already enabling that the secondary raw materials can be used in the construction, and this is really a big benefit, because as we are in our institute, when we are working from the how really put the products on the market, this is very important that you have legislation which enables to use secondary raw materials. Of course, if they have appropriate, if these recycled waste have appropriate properties according to the intended end use, and of course they have to fulfill all the basic requirements, including health and environment for their use. Next slide, please. So the second thing, what is very important, we talk today very much, is about encouragements. So demand side measure which can support the use. This is especially important in the parts of Europe or in those areas where there is a huge market of the primary raw materials in the construction sector. So green public procurement is just one case how to encourage this. Next slide, please. And third, which is, I would say, the biggest part of our project, or it's a big part of our project, is the digital business environment. So what we are doing in the Cinderella project is that we are constructing so-called Cinderos. This is one-stop shop service which can support all the actors along the value chain and also the stakeholders to use the primary raw materials, the secondary raw materials in the construction sector. Next slide, please. In the part of the digitalization, of course, in the construction sector, building information modeling is very important. And it also supports, when using the secondary raw materials, it also enables bigger transparency, and also it enables us to follow the whole material, from the waste to the recycling to the use in the production into the construction product, and also where it's built and how to reuse it later when it become a waste again. Next slide, please. And this is also part which for the construction sector is very important, is that we just don't recycle materials, but we also reuse, and so-called the modular construction is very important, as well as a new technology such as 3D printing. Next slide, please. And now I come to our large-scale demonstration. The first is really a smaller one, but it's very important because it illustrates the example that we don't recycle just from the waste directly to the final consumer, this is to the construction sector, but that we make a kind of the sequential recycling. So I will just take one example on which we built, and this is use of the sewage sludge in the construction sector. This is possible, but the sewage sludge also contains a lot of the phosphorus, which we know that is critical raw materials. So here, this was developed at the TU Delft in the Amsterdam. We see an example how the urine, which contains a lot of the important components as a nutrients for plants, can be extracted and used for the development of the fertilizer, while the rest of the urine goes into the sewage and can be, and at the end product is the sewage sludge, which has less these nutrients which can be used otherwise. Next slide, please. So this is a laboratory part of this, our small demonstration of the recycling urine with the extraction of nutrients. Next slide, please. The other, what you can see here is a really relatively simple recycling of the construction and demolition waste, you would say. But this is one of our large-scale demonstration where we are in Maribor city in Slovenia, where we are building 3 times of the construction works where there is secondary raw materials will be used. Next slide, please. So this is the building which will be done here, also together made in the BIM, Building Information Modeling, and also together with the revitalization of the degraded area, because it stands on the degraded area, and also the road construction. Next slide, please. And the last, very important, is also quantification of the environmental impacts of the secondary raw materials. So we are in the Cinderella using all the usual life cycle assessment. And the final slide, please. So this is very important, we find, especially in the parts, like I said, where there's a lot of the primary raw materials. The awareness is really raising up regarding the use of the secondary raw materials. But one of the important elements is to turn really distrust of the secondary raw materials considered as a waste, still somewhere as a waste, into the secondary raw materials. Thank you very much.